So what's up guys, my name's Ash and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video guys, I've got some custom tactics and player instructions for the 4-2-2 formation, but just before we get started guys, as always I would very much appreciate it if you could drop this a thumbs up as it does really help me out. It's time for shapeshifters, so if you guys need any coins, make sure you check out MMOXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're fast, cheap and reliable, and if you use my code Rema you can get yourself a very nice 5% discount. Okay guys, so starting off with the custom tactics for the video. For the defensive style, I like to have this on balanced as usual. The reason for this is it does give us the greatest control over our defense, so when we need to press our opponent we are able to do so, and then when we want to drop off, be a little bit more passive and conservative, we are also able to do that. It's not really possible with the other settings, which is why balance is so important in my opinion. Now moving on to the defensive width guys, I have this on 42. Now the reason I have it on 42 is so we can primarily defend in a nice narrow and compact shape, which will stop our opponent being able to just attack us through the middle. It's important not to lower the width too much though, as we still want to maintain some of the natural width of the formation to cover the wing in case an opponent tries an attack down the wing. So we want it to be nice and narrow, but not too narrow at the same time. Now moving on to the depth guys, I have this on 59. The reason I do this is because I find it to be a really nice balanced defensive line. Anything in this area of like 55 to 65 is nice and balanced in my opinion, but the reason we go for this is so it's not too deep our defensive line to the point where we're always getting pinned back, and it's not too high to the point where one through ball will always destroy us. We really do have that balance of sometimes sitting off a bit and other times pushing higher to win the ball back. Now moving on to the build-up play guys, I have this on balanced. Now the reason I have it on balanced is because it's by far the most consistent and varied form of build-up. When you use balance you can pick and choose when and where you use each of the different build-up styles, however it suits you. For example, you can decide to play a bit slower with balance, you can decide to speed it up and then play a little bit faster. It's not really possible with the other settings because, for example, with slow build-up you always have to play slowly, the same way with fast build-up you always have to play quick. But with balance you can pick and choose when and where you use slow build up and when you use fast build up. Now moving on to chance creation guys, the most important thing in my opinion is direct passing. Now the reason for this is direct passing is by far the most meta option because your attacking players will bunch up against the opposition defenders, meaning you can do the super overpowered 1v1 isolation plays to create many chances. Players will also make those extra movements in the penalty box so you can get off the extra pass to guarantee the goals. Direct passing is an absolute must in my opinion. Now moving on to the defensive width guys, the attacking width guys, I have this on 41. The reason for this is the 4-2-2 is a narrow formation, so we don't want to make it something it's not by having a crazy high width, and on the flip side we don't want to have the width too low because then your players feel way too close together, there's not much space to pass between and it just feels way too congested. So we want it to be narrow but not too narrow. Now moving on to players in box guys, I'm currently trialing this out on 3. This is so still got enough players in the box to finish off those chances, but we have a lot of coverage outside the box when we lose the ball, meaning we won't get counter-attacked as often. As for corners and free kicks guys, I have these both on 1 because there is a set piece routine that I use which requires these to be on 1. There is a link to that in the top right hand corner of the screen. Now moving on to the players you want to use guys, I'm just going to give some suggestions on each position. It's not something you have to use, these players are just like a guideline really. You can pretty much use whoever you want, but the suggestions I would make for the 2 strikers is to have at least 1 creative player in that lineup. The reason for this is it makes your attack a lot more varied. Basically, if you just use 2 out and out strikers, players that can only really finish the ball, you're very restricted in what you can do in attack because all you can really do to those players is cross to them and through ball to them. There's not much else you can do because they're not that good with the ball. But if you implement at least 1 more creative player into that strike force, you can do a lot more like fast passes, you can do a lot more varied build up. You can maybe take on a player with that striker and then pass it. You know, there's just a lot more you can do as opposed to crossing and shooting. But yeah, moving on to the right cam and the left cam guys, I suggest using wingers. This is because these players are the main outlets in the team, so it is important that these players have decent pace and dribbling ability so that they can actually beat a man. Obviously the 5-star skill moves is an added bonus as it gives you an extra trick or two to help you beat your man. It's also important important that these players can pass and shoot, because there is a lot of times where these players will end up in those dangerous areas where they need to be clinical, and if they're constantly whiffing your chances, you're not going to be too happy. Now moving on to the 2 CDMs, guys, I suggest in the left CDM spot or even in the right CDM spot, doesn't really matter, using one out-and-out defensive CDM player. This is somebody that will always stay back and basically won't go forward, just as solid as possible at the back, really. So I would suggest somebody with a medium-high work rate if you can get it, as you get that maximum contribution in the defense and they aren't too bothered about going forward. As for the other CDM though, guys, I like to implement a more box-to-box style player in this position to balance out the midfield. So basically this player will attack and defend, basically do a bit of everything. So we want somebody with a high work rate if you can get it, as you get that maximum contribution in both the attack and the defense, but just ensure that this player has a nice well-rounded card so that they can do a bit of everything. As for the fullbacks, guys, you can pretty much use whoever you want. You could go for a balance between the two, where you have like one more defensive fullback, one more attacking fullback. You could go for 2 more attacking fullbacks, or you could go for 2 defensive fullbacks. Really is up to you and how you feel most comfortable. As for the 2 centre backs, guys, these just need to be the meta players. These are obviously fast players. These are players with good physicality and medium-high work rate and decent height. But yeah, there's not too much to say about the centre backs. And as for the goalkeeper, guys, it really doesn't matter. Use whoever you feel comfortable with. Now, moving on to the player instructions, guys. On the strikers, I have them both on stay central and mixed attack. We have them on stay central because we don't want them drifting off into the wider areas. They are our strikers, so it is important that they do maintain that central position where they are most used to us. They're not really going to be very useful for us if they are drifting out wide all the time, because we've already got like 2 players to do that in the right cam and left cam. So we do want them to stay central and maintain that position. We also have them on mixed attack as opposed to getting behind, as I feel like you just get a lot more out of the players this way. They just seem to do a lot more, make more versatile movements, and seem a lot less restricted in the attack. If you put them on getting behind, they always make the same one-dimensional runs, and it's very predictable for an opponent. That being said, you can put them on getting behind if that is something that you prefer. Now moving on to the cams, guys, the right cam and the left cam, we have them both on comeback on defense. Now the reason we have them on comeback on defense is because it will make this team defend in a 4-4-2 shape. This means we're going to be very good in attack with the 4-2-2 shape and very good defensively with the 4-4-2 shape, as we can defend both the wide areas and narrow areas, which isn't really possible otherwise. So comeback on defense, super important in my opinion. Now for both of the CDMs, I actually have them on stay back while attacking, cut passing lanes and cover center. We have them on stay back while attacking, so they're always back by default, so we're not always going to get counter-attacked and stuff like that if we lose the ball. We have them on cut passing lanes, so they're always looking to intercept the passes and break up the play for us. And then we also have them on cover center, so they do defend those central areas. Now I did say I use a more box-to-box player in one of the positions, but I kind of manually move him forward when I want to attack with him. That being said, if you want more natural movements, you could just put them on balanced attack if that feels better for you. Moving on to the fullbacks, guys, we have them on stay back while attacking and overlap. We have them on stay back while attacking, so our back four is always intact and there is less risk of us getting through ball down the line all the time. And we also have them on the overlap run type, so when we do send them on a run forward, they'll make the overlapping runs to add extra width. As for the centre backs and the goalkeeper, guys, these are on the default settings and I do not touch them. Just another note with the fullbacks, when I want to attack with them, I'll use the D-pad settings to send them forward just to avoid confusion. But yeah, guys, they're my custom tactics and player instructions for the 4-2-2. If you have enjoyed, please be sure to drop it a like, sub to the channel if you are new, and don't forget to turn on notifications. And with all that aside, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.